Hey guys, Andrew Esquivel here, back with another review, and today I'm going to be reviewing a garden laser light with Christmas displays, courtesy of a company called 1x1. Now, right off the bat, I just want to apologize for a review I just did of this a few hours ago, and I just want to point out that there were some really untimely coincidences during some parts of the test that led me to believe that there was an issue with the device, and there is not. So, I want to redo the review properly, so let's dive on into it. So first off, we've got the device itself. Before we delve into the device, I still have some things that I'd like to point out. Being that this is an outdoor and indoor device, there are certain things about it that you should take into account, and these things are clearly detailed in the cautions and warnings section, which is actually relatively extensive compared to most devices. Now, this device does not have a grounding wire built into it. That was actually one of the things in the previous version that kind of caught me off guard. Normally, a lot of my outdoor electronic devices have a grounding wire by default. This doesn't have that, but it doesn't really pull all that much power, and it is made of plastic on the outside, and the inside I can't imagine would be an issue for possibly pulling any electrical strikes from the clouds towards it. So there probably actually isn't even a need for a grounding wire on this. It's most likely got proper insulation on the inside, so what would happen is if there was a serious malfunction, the device would just burn up and it would just be, dead like any other electronic that gets exposed to water. That being said, the construction here is actually designed to encase the electronics. I'm assuming around here is probably a gasket of some sort that gets screwed in to keep it all nice and tidy because, as I said before, it's designed to be outdoors during the holiday season, so that means it could be subjected to snow or rain depending on which part of the country you live in. And on the back here you'll see even the wire is got a nice little gasket seal right here going onto it. And one thing I will give them credit for is the gauge of the wire is pretty hefty, so that's one plus about it that I do like about the wire. So moving on, as you'll notice, there's two lasers right here. It's because this has two different projections. One involves green Christmas trees. The other is kind of like a red, starry laser show, I guess you would say it. Over here we have a photosensitive light detector. So, in other words, it will detect when the sun is out and about, and it will turn itself off if you have it set to that mode. And when the sun goes down, it can turn itself back on. Or, if that doesn't tickle your fancy, there is a mode that you can use to go on a timer basis, where, according to the instruction booklet, it will stay on for 6 hours in the dark, and then 18 hours during the daytime, provided you time it properly. Or you can just do a manual override and just have it on all the time. Each option overrides the other two options, so if you want the ambient light sensor to take control, it'll override the manual and the timer function, and vice versa for all the other options. Now let's talk really quick about the plastic construction here. The plastic construction is just moderately thick plastic for the main components. Down here, this is a mounting bracket, so you can have this on any flat surface, and you can screw it into a wooden surface if you so choose. The plastic down here is not what I would consider equivalent grade plastic to up here. That being said, it also comes with a spike that you would stick in the ground. Instructions do tell you not to use a mallet of any sort to stick it in the ground. So basically, if it's going in an area and it's too hard to push in with your own hand, don't force it because you may end up breaking it. Now, there is one gripe about this system that I feel is worth pointing out is, yes, a system like this makes it very easy to be festive for those of us who don't want to take the time to put up a ton of lights and whatnot. And it's great for the purpose of the person who purchases it, buys it, and sets it up. But these are also notoriously easy to unplug and just steal. Now, from what I'm told, there are other manufacturers out there that have devised mechanisms that make it more difficult to steal. But as you can see, this just pops right off. There's nothing that really keeps it in place other than a little bit of friction and gravity. And it would have been nice to see some sort of mechanism that would at least try and make it a little more difficult for thieves. But at the end of the day, a thief is going to do what a thief is going to do. Now, the cord itself is another thing I want to talk to you about really quickly. If this is going to be used outdoors, I'll just tell you right away, this cord is nowhere near long enough to be useful. It's only 11 feet, and it doesn't give you a lot of distance, realistically, to place this in a potentially good spot. So if you're planning on using this outside, invest in an outdoor extension cord, and you might as well try to look for those clasps that go over the end connections in order to waterproof the connection as best you can. So, now that we've gone over the construction and the basics of the device, let's plug it up and see what it looks like. So for this part of the test, we're going to keep it inside of the house because it'll be easier to show you how the function button works while inside of here compared to outside where it's a little dark and there's mosquitoes everywhere. So, first off, let's dim the lights. Okay, so now that we have the lights turned off, we're going to go over how to work the device. There is only one button in the back here, and pressing and holding it does one thing, pressing it multiple times cycles through some other stuff, and we're just going to go over that and I'll explain what I'm doing with my hand as we go along. So first off, I have it manually turned off. I'm going to turn it on manually again. I press the button once, and this is the general pattern that we start with. It's got Christmas trees, red laser lights, and they spin around. If I press the button in once really quick, it holds the pattern that it's currently at. If I press it again, it should do a blinking system. Now the blinks are, well, not all that great. They're timed relatively decently. If you're trying to attract people to your store, maybe it's not fast enough, but if it's just recreational, I can imagine it being okay. Now, you'll notice they don't sync perfectly with each other. That could be a little annoying depending on how OCD you are about that sort of thing. But let's go ahead and press the button again. Now it brings us to a continuous motion with just the red lasers, and if I press the button again, it stops the lasers at the position in which you wanted it. And I press the button one more time, and you guessed it, it will blink the red lasers in the position in which you stopped it at. So let's press the button one more time. Now we have the green Christmas trees. And I'm sure you can see this in the center. There is the focused light, and it's got some sort of refracting kind of system that repeats the pattern outwards, and then some sort of spinning cylindrical system on that refracting system to make it kind of spin around, but they always stand upright. That's true for the lasers as well for the red portion. So as you can see, it's just the trees, and as you can imagine, we press the button again, it stops it in place. Press the button one more time, and then it goes through the blinking motions. So let's press the button once again, and we get brought back to the original system, which is what I personally think has got to be the best out of all of them. But hey, whatever tickles your fancy. But this last mode, I believe this is the last mode, or the last mode set, where it will actually alter through all the different modes automatically, so it'll continuously change through as many different options as the device has. So we could sit here and continue to watch it do what it does, but I think you get the point. It just, cycles through. It does everything spinning and then stopped and then blinking for each set. So let's press the button again, and as we have the last button again, that brings us back to the normal function where it's just this one system all going at the same time, whereas the trees, the lasers, and the spinning effect all at once, just continuously, no variations, no alterations, etc. It's just the standard thing. But like I said, I like this one the best. So total, that's about 10 different options. There's 3 sets for each of the color, and then there's one last one for the ability to cycle through them all. So that's what it looks like indoors. We'll give it a shot outdoors and see how it looks on the side of the house. Alright, so it's currently a little damp outside because it did rain relatively recently. This is the little spike that comes with the device. You just kind of push it in the ground. It doesn't recommend using a mallet or anything. Makes me think the plastic is probably a little too fragile to use a mallet to get in there. But if we take a look, this is how it looks on the outside. As you can see, you know, the further away from the center, the less bright the device is. It looks nice. Now then, One by One did state that in the instruction booklet that the device is capable of handling itself in a situation where it is raining outside. This being an outdoor device, you would imagine that it would have to put up with the elements anyway. Now then, there is an exception to this rule that I just want to state for documentation purposes. It did say never to submerge the device in water. I'm not sure why you would, but just stating it for the record. Now, what better way to test the device than during an actual rainstorm here in Illinois? As you can see, we've actually got somewhat sideways rain going on, and we may even have a tornado coming about. So, this should be an interesting test. As you can see, it's raining really hard. Let's try and see if the device will work manually. So pressing the button, we do not get anything on the wall. Alright, now it is time for me to give my final thoughts on the product, but before I do, I want to explain what you just saw in the little segment of this device outside while it was not functioning. So this is actually the issue that I was going over in the original review that I had removed because I wanted to make sure that I get the correct information for you guys. It was a really unfortunate timing event. You see, the wall outlet that I had been using to power this device outside was being used for several days, and I had had no issues with that wall outlet. Now, after a few days, it started to rain. That's where I started to record because, hey, it's a great way to test the device while being subjected to the elements of the weather. Now, it just so happened that when I went out there to check on it, the device no longer was working, which seemed awfully convenient that a device that's outside stopped working when it was raining, being an electric device. So I thought, well, something might be wrong. And I wasn't sure if it was the product or if it was the outlet. So we tested the outlet, and the outlet wasn't producing any power. However, when we replugged this up to a different outlet, the device continued to work again. So it got us thinking, well, did this device somehow trip something in the electrical lines? Well, long story short, no, it didn't. And it's not physically capable of doing so, and I'll explain why in a minute. You see, there are power outlets in the house that have ground fault circuit interrupters. Now, these are these little power outlets that you see with the red and black buttons. And it's kind of like a mini circuit breaker, I guess you would say, for more sensitive detection of anomalies. But the only way that the GFCI could be tripped is if it detected a current in the ground line. This does not have a ground line, therefore it could not have sent any electronic signal through the GFCI and made it shut off. Now, the GFCI did indeed shut off, but something else had caused it to shut off. See, the GFCI is responsible for several outlets throughout the house. Not many, but some. And it just so happened that one of the devices that happened to be used around the same time, for whatever reason, tripped off the interrupter right before I went to check on this thing. So, with that being said, the device still works. It was able to brave the elements, and I just wanted to clear that up. However, I do want to point out that I do notice one little issue after being used in the rain. As you saw me cycling through the lights, you'll notice that at some points during the blinking section, there is a lag time between the synchronicity of the green and red laser. That issue has been exacerbated ever since bringing it out of the rain and letting it dry off. It's not something that I think is going to really impact anything, and I'm not going to dock a star for it because I think that it might just be some sort of anomaly, and I don't think it's anything to be concerned about. Like I was saying before in the beginning of the video, if you feel right here, you can actually see it, there's a rubber gasket that keeps this completely enclosed, and over here this little thing that has the wire coming out of the back has a rubber gasket that encases it as well. So it is a completely encased product, and I don't see anything on it that would suggest that the plastic hardware has failed it, allowing moisture to get in. So as far as I can tell, everything's a-okay. The construction of the device is decent. I don't think this is a device that's going to last many, many years, just based off of the plastic construction. I could very well see something happening where a projectile of some sort penetrating the plastic, or worse yet, the glass right on front here, causing an issue that would prevent the device from working properly. If you're in a warmer part of the country and you have a lawn to take care of, just be careful that your lawnmower doesn't accidentally spurt up some rocks and whatnot that may hit the device if you decide to leave it out while tending to your lawn. Other than that, you know, it's a decent product. The modes that you have, I mean, there's really only a few good ones that I think are actually worth using, but that's completely subjective. You may have a use for having the static display versus the dynamic display, and maybe you like the blinking version. I personally think the best one is the combination of everything and just keeping it at the combo of everything. So, that being said, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, show your friends, check out my videos. I got plenty of them, and I will see you next time.